It's episode 114 of the Improv London podcast. I'm your host, Stuart Moses, and this week's guest is Jinni Lyons.
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
I'm really well. Really well, thanks. It's also just occurred to me that actually talking to you is the first time I've spoken today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, working from home, it has its downsides, and one is just being entirely locked in your own brain and not actually speaking. So this is great.
So, do you mind me asking what you do?
No, I'm a translator. During the day.
Right, cool.
By day. French and Italian to English.
Oh, wow. Do you ever do the subtitles on films? I've had friends that do that.
No, I don't, and it's on my list of things to investigate.
Yeah.
Mainly because I'm a complete pedant, and every time I watch something with subtitles, there's a mistake in the subtitles and it drives me crazy. And it doesn't matter what language it's in.
Yeah.
I've watched a Japanese film before, read the subtitles, and knew that there was a mistake, even though I don't speak Japanese.
Wow.
I'm that much of an arse.
Well, that's certainly not the way you come across.
For you.
So, you're perhaps best known for Jinni Lyons is an only child, or solo improvisation.
Yeah.
Which I think I don't like solo improvisation, and then I see it, and I'm thinking about the time I particularly saw you perform at the nursery, and I go, oh yes, I do like this. I don't know why I don't think I like. Well, I don't know why I don't think I like it.
Yeah.
And it's not just the fact that I was given a pastry as part of
Oh,
the
good. I'm
performance.
pleased you said that, because I was going to say, could have been a pastry.
Well, I think I would have enjoyed your performance anyway, but I would encourage more.
Enhanced by the pastry.
Yes. Tell me all about giving away pastries and your act.
Oh, well, first of all, I love the idea that I'm best known for something. That really shores up my arrogant conceit of calling a show by my own name. Using my own name. It's true. Jinni Lyons is an only child. It's true. I am an only child. Which I like to say at the beginning of each show, just in case there was any, doubt that anybody other than an only child would want to get up on stage by themselves and command attention. Well, it all came about. I think I've been doing it about 5-6 years now. And it came about because a group that I was in, 8-Bit, we were coached by Katie Shute, and in one of our rehearsals or warm-up sessions, she got us to do budget scenes, and I've never heard of them since.
No.
But a budget scene is basically solo improv. You're playing all the characters in the scene. And I can still remember what it was. I was playing like an old-timey American cowboy in a bar, and a younger, just out of college barkeep. And I just had a whale of a time. I just really, really enjoyed it. And I thought, I'll just see what that's like to do more of. And so fully aware, I think I was very lucky when I started to do performing improv. Wow, this is really the first time I've spoken, isn't it? Doing performing improv. Wow. The group that I formed, that I was part of, knew from the beginning that we needed a coach. That there was never any doubt in our mind that was a sensible thing to do. And so I thought, well, that's doubly the case if you're doing solo improv, because you really desperately need an outside eye. And I basically couldn't pick an outside eye, just a single one, so I got 3. So I got Katie and Carrie Lloyd and Paul Foxcroft.
Wow.
To be a kind of triumvirate of directors, basically. Always had one-on-one sessions with them. And they helped me form my show over a period of about 6 months. And then I did my first outing, 15 minutes, at a Hoopla launch pad, at the Wagon, is it the Wagon and Horses, or the Coach and Horses? The one in Lambeth North, I forget.
Yes, Coach and Horses.
Coach and Horses. And, and my sole aim for that first show was, do I like this? Do I like doing this? There wasn't any kind of tick boxes I wanted to achieve, or number of characters I wanted to play, or reaction I wanted, or anything like that. It was literally, do I enjoy doing this? And I really did. Yeah, it was super fun. It was super, super fun. And Paul was there, and I remember warming up with him, and we were behind this weird sort of partitioned bar, and we did rubber chicken as one of the warm-ups. It's that one where you just basically like shake your right hand 8 times, and then shake your left hand 8 times, and your right foot 8 times, and then you count down the numbers. And I do that now before that's the end of every single warm-up I do.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so whatever like stretches and, sirening and weird voices I might try and do, I always end with the rubber chicken as commemoration of that very first warm-up with Paul. And I just had a blast. It was just really super fun, and so I carried on working with them, and all 3 of them, and there are things that I still do today that I learnt from them in those initial sessions. That I'm still going, oh God, I still haven't acted on that note from Katie. Basically, I unfortunately don't have Paul warming up with me every single time, but I do make sure that I do notes to myself. I try and do them the following day.
Really?
Sometimes, mostly, I'm really awful, and it's like a month or 2 months later, and it's just a way of kind of, because I don't record most of my shows, and I don't have other people to discuss it with. So I think it's really important for me to sort of analyse what went well and what didn't. And also to write down the nice things that people said.
Yes.
Because they're so frequent that I'll have, what am I doing this for? What's the point? And just feeling generally awful. And so, I write down, if people came up to me and said nice things, then I write them down. Not that I'm just poring over those.
No.
And constantly, as I said, shoring up my huge ego. But I do like to have them there.
Do you give yourself really tough notes?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I try and be. Yeah. I'm like. I don't swear at myself, but I do use an underlining every now and again. There's sometimes an underlining, or I highlight something in green. I do try and give myself tough notes, particularly when it's like, come on, you wanted to do that for the past 4 shows. Why haven't you done it? And then I finally do it, and I'm writing to myself, see? That worked when you did that. Why didn't you do that before? Keep doing that bit. So I am quite firm. Firm with myself.
Yeah. It's always interesting, the getting the balance, because I like to sort of analyse and think about when I've done a show, but there's always a balance between doing that as a learning tool and that as an excuse to beat yourself up. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's why I have the nice things as well. And it's very much like, it's never just a list of, these are all the things I need to work on. They're also a kind of a sense of commemoration, I suppose. And what went well. Because, I mean, lots of times, that's the joy of doing solo improv, is that, I'll just be about to go on, I'm like, oh, I don't want to do it that way. What am I going to do? Oh, I think I'll just change it. Just change it. And it's like 2 minutes before I'm about to go on. Yeah. So I'll do something else. And so I want to write down whether that experiment worked. 9 times out of 10 it does. Yeah. So it's like, oh, cool, yeah. Don't get stuck in a format. That was really funny, actually, when I first started doing solo improv and first started getting gigs. And so I'd be guesting at, ensemble nights and mixed bill nights even. And I'd have people, great, oh wow, you do solo improv, that's so cool. What format are you doing? I'm not doing one. And I'd be like, well, what? Because this was back when Harold's had basically just burst. Although I'll be honest, 8-bit were doing a Harold, not a very good one, and it was about 45 minutes long. But we were doing a Harold before Monkey Toast were. Just saying. But yeah, they were everywhere. Harolds were everywhere. And so, if it wasn't a Harold, it was an Armando. And then basically everyone was just kind of format crazy. And the idea that I wasn't doing a format was just, I think, baffling to some people. So that was really nice to just go, just sort of do. I mean, I've sort of thought of an idea, and then Not like pre-planning, but just
Yeah.
like a sort of form to the show. But that's it, really. Yeah, and that seemed to just make people unsettle people, and then afterwards go, "Oh, I totally get it. That was great." So it's nice to surprise people still.
Yes, it's interesting. Is it when you're... Do you need a more defined format when you've got more people playing it?
Yeah.
And so if it's only you, you don't need that pre-agreed kind of format? I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm just going to put it out there. I'm just, Scandal, like, Improv London podcast exclusive.
That's what we love.
I hate formats.
You're right.
I just can't stand them.
Yeah.
I don't mind watching them, but I can't stand doing them because I hate the feeling that you have to do something next. And I just feel, the Herald was created by Del Close as a learning tool. It was there as a gateway to show students how to do long form. The suggestion that you might want to, do something, and then maybe involve a bunch of people, and then, hey, revisit something you've done before. And I just feel like there's, the obsession with getting a format right,
Yes.
I think is so debilitating to the creative freedom of an improviser on stage. I think they're great as training wheels.
Yeah.
And I think if someone's really desperate to kind of, because people obviously learn and work in different ways, and sometimes people need structure to be able to create within that structure. But I don't know. I think sometimes the structure is more lauded than the scenes themselves.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that was so clever that referred back to that, rather than it actually being a good scene.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know if that's the point. But yeah, controversial. Controversial.
I entirely agree, and part of it for me is necessity, because I am so busy being in the moment and listening to the people I'm improvising with. I haven't got the spare brain power to be going, we're in scene 2A. This is going to need to come back in whatever. So, no, I think that's...
Yeah, I think personally for me, if I'm ever in a format, like I remember doing a workshop. And because I don't like to just go, oh, well, that's not for me, I never want to do it again. I did a workshop a few years ago on the deconstruction or the decon.
Yes.
And I watched people do it, and I'm like, oh my god, that's amazing! Look at that go! Oh, that's so fun! I would totally get it. And I was in it, and I felt like I was going to throw up because I was like, I can't remember what is supposed to be happening. I cannot remember what's supposed to be happening now, and I hated that feeling of just like, well, I can't just come on and do what feels instinctive next. I can't do what come on and do what's naturally a follow-on from this. And it doesn't have to be obviously a linear follow-on. It could be a flashback. It could be we cut to something 1,000 miles away. But then you can't do that, and it just drives me crazy. Yes. I don't know why. For some people, I understand. Yes, the structure is handy. For me, it's a restriction.
Yes, no, I entirely agree. And sometimes I have that instinct. It's like, oh, I've got this idea, but now I'm thinking, is that idea, does that fit in with the structure? And then by that point, I'm like, I'm lost anyway. So,
It's all gone. Yeah, so I basically made my own for Only Child. That's what I call it. That's my little nickname for my own show, isn't it? Yeah. Which was to basically have two. Well, it was started off as 3, and then basically I was sort of not running out of time, but I wasn't doing the scenes justice. So now it's 2 completely separate scenes. I get a suggestion from the audience, I do a scene, I get another suggestion, and I do another scene, and then the audience get to choose which one they want to see more of.
That I thought was particularly interesting, because I haven't seen that.
Really?
I don't think so. Obviously in Choose Your Own Adventure game books, I'm familiar with the concept. Yeah. I don't think I've seen that in an improv show. That's
very interesting. Oh wow, I just assumed that was, because I feel like ages ago I said, oh, that's what I do. And someone was like, oh, yeah, I did that. But I don't, maybe they were like a visiting teacher or something.
I suppose DuckTales do that because they're very consciously aping the format of those choose your own
Right.
adventure books. I suppose maybe they do that. It's certainly not a common thing that I've
Right,
seen.
yeah.
And also, I'm used to seeing when someone does a long form format. It's not a format, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Do long form. That they get the suggestion at the beginning, and that's the level of involvement for the audience. So actually, I quite like the fact that you came back. You come back to the audience, and then you get them involved again, and help
Well, that was part of something that Katie said to me right at the beginning, of just like, well, you know, the audience is like your other improviser, and that's exactly the case. I mean, I don't want there to be necessarily that much of a barrier between us, because I want the audience to feel part of it.
Yes.
Somehow. Yeah, to what extent? I mean, that's kind of... I change how I ask for suggestions, and sometimes I might... Again, and I've sort of changed the order over the years, so now the first thing I do is tend to offer people something to eat.
Yes.
Used to always be biscuits, but then I went crazy this year because of the weather. I just felt too hot to offer biscuits, so I did one show where I offered grapes.
Oh, right.
That went down well. And then I did another one, my most recent one, cherry tomatoes.
Oh,
Cherry
really?
tomatoes. Yeah, and I ask people, you know, what do they... offer them around, and people eat them, and then I ask, you know, what does it make you think of?
Yes.
And again, that's gone through an evolution from the beginning as well, because it used to be, you know, what type of person do you think of when you eat this biscuit, or, you know, what words do you... And it got too prescriptive.
Right, yes.
So I've opened it up a little bit. It's always evolving, Stuart. It's always got, you know, it's like a shark. It's got to keep moving. The shark of improv. And, so I sort of show people, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do with your suggestion. So you can see the kind of level of comedy or tragedy, depending on the mood. And then I'll probably, again, depending on my mood, either I'll ask for something they have in their pocket or bag or whatever, or I'll share something quite personal of myself. And basically my thought is just like, well, if I go to, I would usually do this in a kind of showing my hands, but obviously audio format can't do it. But if we assume that sort of 0 is, no, I absolutely don't want to share anything, and 10 is, you know, tell all memoir, I'll basically sort of show that I'm happy to go to about 8 or 9, and then I ask the audience to join me at about 4 or 5.
Oh, right, okay.
So I ask them a question that, you know, is getting them to share, but they don't have to share as much as I just did. And that seems to really work. Because they're like, oh, well, I've seen what you've done with the material, and I know you treat it with respect. And if you're willing to share that much, then okay, yeah, I can share a little bit too. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then I treat that with respect as well. So
you're building a rapport with the audience by feeding them. And then trust by... Yeah. It's a really lovely thing to do, actually, because it just breaks down sort of the barrier between the performer and the audience.
And I partly pinched that from Bryony Kimmings.
Oh, right.
I went to go and see a show of hers called Sex Idiot, and which was phenomenal. And as you were coming in, and it was at the South Bank Centre, I think, maybe? Or the National, I can't remember. Somewhere along there. And as you came into this auditorium, it's like, you know, it's a proper big theatre. It's not some like room above a pub.
Yeah.
Proper big theatre, and she offers everyone sweets. Like, she's got a massive bowl of sweets.
Yeah.
And it's this, bearing in mind what she then goes on to do in the show, and what she asks people. Like, she asks people if they can cut off some of their pubes and put them in a jar, which she then sticks to some sellotape and uses it as a pube moustache. Anyway, in the show. So she's wearing audience members' pubes on her face. But I love that she's lured you in with the sweets. She's created this instant connection of just like, hey, come in, join my party. Here's, you know, she's not just some kind of... She's there at the front, welcoming you. And I really like that sense of welcome. So, I did the Steal Like an Artist thing.
Yes. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was good fun.
So, in addition to performing as a solo artist, you also teach for Hoopla.
I do.
Tell me
Also,
about
I'm
that.
just going to say, again,
Oh.
I love this artiste. It's like, I was best known for, now I'm an artiste. Oh, this is so good for my ego, Stuart. Woo! Yes, I do teach for Hoopla. I don't know how long for. 5? Let's just say 5 years.
Yeah,
just round it up.
State it
Just round
as
it
long
up.
as you state it confidently,
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
It's
I'm going
probably
to
about
accept
that.
it.
It's probably about that. I do. I teach a variety. Beginners, performance, long form, and Steve and I are in some discussions for some new courses coming in the new year, but they're kind of a little bit
All right, okay.
under
so
wraps at the moment.
keep an
'Cause
eye out for that. Which is your favourite of all those to teach?
Oh,
I know you love
God,
them all
it's like
equally.
asking for a favourite child.
Yeah, I haven't.
I don't have any children, so this should be easier. I do. I love beginners a lot because I really love changing a group of 15, 16 completely terrified total strangers into a joy-filled team.
Yes.
Who are just so... And I love that can change in the first week.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't have to be over the course of the 2 months. It's the first week you can see the change in people, and it's just their eyes opening.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that I'm not necessarily saying that figuratively.
Yeah.
I'm also saying that literally.
Yeah.
Like, their eyes just seem a bit wider and a bit more... I don't know if it's shell shock, or I don't know if it's just like glee, where they're just like, oh, I didn't know I could play like this. I didn't know that this was okay to do anymore. And yeah, this revelation on their faces, this opening up is just such a joy to witness.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that for me is really special to be the person who is showing them that change is possible.
Yeah.
You know, and I've had such lovely people come onto the beginners classes who have come on for all number of reasons, and that's the thing I really like about Hoopla as well, is that obviously, you know, we do get some performers coming and doing improv, but generally speaking it's well, a lot of people in IT.
Yes.
It's extraordinary the amount of people in IT who come and do courses. But lots of people for so many other reasons, like, you know, somebody who's, you know, been through drama therapy and really enjoyed the improv side of it, so they wanted to carry on. Or, you know, I've got one person on my course at the moment who, you know, they did a couple of corporate sessions at their work with Katie.
Wow.
Enjoyed them so much that they booked a Hoopla course, which is just, oh my God, bring out the piñatas. That's brilliant. And the most memorable one for me was a few years ago, where this guy came on, and the reason he wanted to do improv was that he wanted to play better with his son. Wow. Because he was aware that he was being dismissive of his son's ideas of playtime, and that he was being like, no, come on, don't be silly, you need to, you know, this is how the game is played, you need to be like this, or no, come on, don't do that, we need to be sensible and do such and such. And, you know, after a few weeks, he was like, oh, it was really great. I was, you know, with my son just about to catch a tube, and he was like, oh, it's like, you know, it's like a rocket. And he said, normally I would be, you know, no, come on, like, be sensible, it's careful, big on the chain. He's like, no, it is like a rocket, isn't it? And we're going to be astronauts, and we're going to get on it, and where do you think we're going to go? And he said that the change in his son's face, that he was but that his story was being perpetuated, was just, I mean, that choked me up.
That's amazing.
Still makes me feel a bit like tingly, like genuinely a little bit. Oh, look, goosebumps.
Yeah,
You can't see people, but genuine goosebumps.
It's doing the same to me.
Just on one arm, but still. Yeah, that was just, I mean, that's just magic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Total magic.
To have that sort of perception, to be aware enough that, first of all, that you're doing that, and then secondly, to actually take action to deal with that, that's amazing.
That's the thing I find incredible, and why I make a point at the beginning of every beginner's course to get people to applaud themselves, because I was like, you are so brave. You booked an improv course.
Yes. And you turned
up.
up.
Yes. Like, that's so cool. And as you say, that people have this desire to be self-aware and do something about it, and to find out, not only to do something about it, but then find a really quite unusual way to address whatever they perceive to be a problem, or
Yes.
perceive to be something that's holding them back. It just blows my mind. I think people are amazing.
Yes, yes, no, definitely, definitely. And I particularly love the way in which hoopla teachers, in particular, other teachers as well, but the way in which they can bond this group of disparate strangers into a sort of a team, and that seems to happen really quickly.
Well, that's cool. I mean, I feel like I can't really comment on that because I've got biased. But yeah, no, I know what you mean. And it is very satisfying how many people, come from, I'll teach a performance course, and, 2/3 of them at least all have been from the beginner's course, and they've all gone up together, which is lovely. Yeah, that is very satisfying.
So when you're teaching beginners or the performance course, what's your favourite exercise to teach?
Oh! In terms of beginners, pass the clap.
Ah, right, yes.
That old favourite, that old chestnut. And it's probably the first thing I do.
Yeah.
So, everybody has different ways of playing it. So for, clarity's sake, it's the one where everybody stands in a circle, you look at the person next to you, make eye contact, and you clap at the same time. Turn to the next person next to you, etc., etc., and then you can reverse the clap and send it across the circle. And the reason that's my favourite is because in that first week, the claps are kind of, and I'm sorry if this is too loud, but the claps are kind of like, or like, oh God, sorry, or oh no, oh God, oh let me do that again, oh no, I did it wrong again, and it's so apologetic and it's so self-conscious. And then I play that again in week 8, and it's like pow, 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 shit, pow, wing, zing, zing, and it's just like, it's like watching lightning go around, and everyone, no one's thinking about themselves anymore. Everyone's just thinking about being part of the collective.
Yes.
So that's probably why, but because I like to show them how far they've come.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so I would say that's my favourite.
Cool. So we've talked about beginners. How did you discover improv?
Oh, by accident, Stuart. By total happy accident. When I first moved to London, I moved in with one of my dearest friends, and she had the excellent idea that so that we didn't stop becoming friends and just became flatmates, that once a week we should have a flatmate date.
Brilliant.
So we set aside an evening a week, and we made each other dinner, took turns to make each other dinner, and, be friends, make sure we were friends. And it worked, we still are. 16 years going strong. Anyway, then we did that for about 6 months, and then we're like, we should probably go outside. That's probably quite cool out there. So then we sort of had a halfway house, and we went to the cinema for a few times, We're outside, but still inside. And then it was my turn to choose what we did, and I think we sort of decided that, maybe seeing some comedy might be nice. And it was literally by chance. I was at work, and I went on the Time Out website, and I just searched for Comedy Tonight, Central London. And a list of a few things came up, and one of them was hoopla. And I was just like, oh, that's such a cool word. I'm quite a word nerd, and I just really liked the name. I just thought that looked really funny. And I was like, oh, we'll read the other things as well. And then I came back to the hoopla, and I was like, oh, it's Whose Line Is It Anyway? Oh my God, I loved Whose Line Is It Anyway? I used to watch that with my mum back in the 90s. And I was like, oh, well, let's do this. It's only a £5. And so we went, and we sat in the back, and it's really nice. I was talking to Steve about this the other day, and he's like, oh yeah, I remember, yeah, you and Clara, you sat at the back under that archway. I was like, that was like 9 years ago.
Wow.
That's amazing you can remember that. But we just laughed until we cried, and then got chatting to them in the pub afterwards, and one of them told me that, oh yeah, we do workshops as well. And I basically got obsessed with the show, went, I think it was 4 times over the course of 5 weeks, and then plucked up the courage. And this was back in the day, Stuart, back in the day. I mean, here we are, lousy with improv schools now, lousy. This was back in the day when you could basically go to Spontaneity Shop in North London, or you had a once-a-week drop-in in Balham with hoopla, and that was it. It was a desert. Desert with a couple of oases. And I plucked up the courage, and I was super, super nervous.
Yeah.
And, it's only a drop-in. I mean, that's why I give these people applause. Yeah. It's like, you've committed to a course, and I was just terrified about a drop-in. And I just walked in the room, and Edgar Fernando, who was running it that night, was just like, Jinni! And literally welcomed me with open arms and gave me a hug. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I can't remember everything we did, but I know I remember doing a sort of mini scene with Rianne and Vivian, who's still one of my very good friends. And her feeding me a mime brownie to like give me energy to power a bike that was powering a generator. That was 9 years ago.
Yeah.
So that was and my life genuinely changed because of improv. So thanks, Steve. Thanks, Edgar.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Edgar. Cool. And you've also been more recently involved in a web project called At 8:58.
Yeah.
Is that how we're pronouncing that?
Yeah, I think so. I've only ever seen it written down.
Yeah,
so
that's me too.
I'm a guess.
Me too.
Let's just say we
Let's
guess.
say that.
Yeah, I was so delighted to be asked for that. So this guy called Riley, again, I've only ever seen his surname written down, so I don't know if I'm saying Madinsea or Madinchea. I'm not sure. Sorry, Riley. But Riley's such a cool name. I mean, who cares if I mispronounce the surname? Riley's such a cool name. I mean, I care if I mispronounce the surname, because I hate it when people call me Jinni Lyons. Oh dear. Anyway, so he just sent me a text, sent me a message on Twitter, and was just like, hey, do you want to be involved in a comedy project? And that was it. That was it, basically. I was like, well, my interest is piqued. Yes. Tell me more. This sounds very intriguing. And so he sent me a couple of emails, and he told me he was involved, and I was like, well, if Ruth Bratt and Pippa Evans and Maria Peters are on board, I mean, I thought it was a good idea anyway, and then they're in it. Well, why would I turn this down? It was really fun. And I bagsied doing my scenes with Maria, because Maria was one of the first people I did improv with, and it's so rare we get the chance to do it together now that I was just seizing that opportunity. And it was basically we had to. Oh, I'm wearing the same shirt actually.
Yeah.
Wearing the same shirt as I did in that. It was basically going to an office space, and the idea is that at 8:58, so as you're making your cup of coffee or whatever in the office kitchen, just about to start work at 9 o'clock, what are the type of conversations that might be happening? That's the idea behind it.
And the production values looked like
stonking. There were snacks.
Yeah.
There was like a green room and snacks and gluten-free snacks. Yeah, somebody made a cup of tea for me.
Wow.
Living the high life now. Well, as you say, I am an artiste.
Well, yes, so
it's only to be expected.
I expected this happened all the time.
All the time.
Barely worth commenting on, really.
Yeah.
I haven't so often.
I'm lousy with gluten-free snacks. So it was lovely. It was so cool. It felt so special to be like in something where improv had this. I think there's something about improv that has something of a reputation of being a little bit, rough and ready, and kind of a bit sort of torn jeans and scuffed trainers look around it. That it was so cool to go into something, as you say, with such there were 2 cameras.
Yes.
And a boom or something.
Yes.
And it was just like, this is so cool to have such respect to be paid to this, and it was so fun.
Yeah.
So fun.
So you were given a one-word suggestion?
Yeah, there was a variety of things. I think we were given. So the one that made the final cut was a word suggestion from like a little list, and other times that you could roll a die, and then that corresponded to words that they'd already sort of pre-prepared. Or it was a prop. So there was one where they gave us a muffin. I just ate the muffin.
I the muffin.
I know. I kind of wish that was the one, because it's basically me taunting Maria for having had her teeth whitened and not being able to eat fun stuff like muffins. And I'm just like, oh no, how awful. And it was, I really enjoyed them. So I got to eat a muffin.
Well, yeah, exactly, yes. That's never a bad thing. So was it untrustworthy, the one that was released?
Trustworthy. It was trustworthy. And then Maria used my real name and was telling me nobody trusts me, and it was like I'd been stabbed in the heart. It was just like all the I'm not acting at all. There's no hint of improv. It's just genuine paranoia coming through. Just like, what what do you mean no one trusts me? Oh my god, because it's a I'm an only child, I work from home, maybe people don't trust me. Oh my god, maybe people don't. I have no friends. Okay, I don't have any friends. That's it. That's my life, actually. It's all a lie. So yeah, what you're seeing there is my genuine fears writ large.
But I mean, that's a lovely thing. If you can do that sort of scene without acting, it's just being real and responding.
Well, that's a nice way to put it, isn't it? That's a nice way to put it, rather than just like putting all sham of performance aside and just freaking out on camera.
Cool. You've also been involved in a Destination podcast.
Yeah.
Tell me about that, because I don't listen to any other podcasts.
Of course you didn't. Why
Just listen
would
to
you?
my own podcast.
I mean, to be honest, I'm terrible at listening to podcasts. I've recently discovered a gardening one, though, so I'm quite into that. But, no, sorry.
It's interesting that you're listening to a gardening podcast.
Oh, God, Stuart. I've developed this whole brand new, brilliant Saturday morning routine, which is basically have my special weekend breakfast, which is boiled eggs and Marmite soldiers, followed by a pot of tea. And I've just recently acquired a teapot for my birthday from my mum, so I'm totally on loose leaf tea. And so I make my pot of tea and I drink tea while doing my ironing and listening to a garden podcast. And Stuart, I've never felt so alive. Honestly, it's utterly marvellous. Anyway, Destination.
I want to dig into that a little bit
more.
more.
Of course.
So you listen to a gardening podcast.
Yeah.
Do you ever do any gardening?
Well, I do. I mean, I don't have a garden, but I've got a few pots.
So do you do gardening while listening to an ironing podcast?
Well, I mean, I could do.
But so you're interested?
Because I mean, I do find pleats difficult, so I can't say that I wouldn't find an ironing podcast useful.
Well, it's just interesting because I was wondering whether you had an interest in gardening as a concept, or whether you were actually interested in actually gardening for real.
No, I am actually interested, and yeah, I mean, like I said, I just have a few pots, and I'm desperately trying not to kill them. Interestingly, just found out parsley. Not a perennial. Only lasts 2 years. So all these times when I thought I've been killing parsley plants, they've just been dying of natural causes.
I did not know that.
Made me feel so much better rather than being like a murderer.
Let's talk about the Destination
podcast.
Anyway,
actually, what we're actually going to talk about, Destination podcast.
Although that could be a game of the podcast where you keep trying to bring up and go, no, let's talk about this.
No, I want to talk about parsley. Destination podcast. I friggin' love it. Oh, God. It never ceases to amaze me every time we sit down to record. And to be fair, it's been a while since I did a session, which is a shame. But oh my god, every time we sit down, I think to myself privately, although now obviously publicly, like, how are we going to do this? 15 minutes? Because Tony Harris does all the editing. And it, as Katie says on the intro, nothing taken out, a few sound effects put in. So nothing is edited together. It is just recorded in real time, 15 minutes. And every single time, a story happens. And I don't know how. It's like magic again. And I don't know how we do it. And I'm not saying that in some kind of like false modesty way, because I genuinely don't understand how we make it happen. I don't know if it's because we're not doing anything else apart from just looking at each other and listening to each other, and we're not trying to, there's no other bits and bobs to do. But, we've done it live as well, which is really fun, where we've just got someone sitting in a chair in the middle of the stage, and then the rest of us off on the on the sides of the stage on microphones. And that's very good fun. I remember I was utterly delighted when we did it up in Edinburgh, and we had Tom Salinsky in the driver's seat, and I was so pleased because at one moment we were talking about John Craven he was supposed to be my brother. Tom Salinsky was supposed to be my brother, and we were talking about John Craven, and then we both said yes, and he's got a certain amount of, and we both said gravitas at the same time, and it's just like, oh yeah, it's just one of those improv hard-on moments. I don't know how destination works. I wish I could give some kind of like someone helpful, isn't it? I can give you the bare bones in that we assign, one of us is the driver, one of us is the sat nav, and one of us is the radio announcer. So the driver basically doesn't have to do any work. It's just the people calling in who are providing them with stimuli, and then they respond to it.
Yes.
So they don't need to worry about stitching anything together at all. It's all the rest of us. So that's why it works very well as being a guest format. Tricked
you into everything you like this format.
So that's why it works very well to having guests on, because you can just like pop them in the driver's seat and go, you don't need to worry about anything, we will do stuff to you. And you just respond to it, and it's so fun. They've had so many lovely people be a part of it that it's just been a total joy to be a part of that project.
Yes. Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds good. And let's cast your mind a little way back. You directed a nursery original called The Restaurant.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, it's funny, I bumped into Jennifer Jordan literally last night, and we were just reminiscing about it, which is why I wanted to talk about it, because it was just, that was a real change for me. I'd never directed anything before. Taught, yes, but never directed. To have this kind of not quite fully formed, but sort of decently shaped idea of a show, and to get other people to do it, and it was just very refreshing to work in a different way.
Yeah. So what was the format of the
the
restaurant?
format, my God, Stuart, jeez, it's like a trigger word. So basically, the idea I had, because it was when the nursery was running out of performing in the Edric Theatre. It's part of London South Bank University, I think. And so when they were pitching for originals, or asking people to submit ideas, it was with that space in mind that I suggested the restaurant, because I was like, well, it's a big stage. Yeah. It's a really big stage. What can you do with that? I wanted to take advantage of that luxury of having such a massive stage. And so I thought, well, I'll just cram it with as many people as possible. And I was like, I'm going to see if you can do a show with 10 people on stage all the time.
Wow.
And, I really love food. It's a very big thing of mine. And so I thought, well, I'll get that in somehow, and it'll always be set in a restaurant. And one part of the stage will be the kitchen, and the other part of the stage will be the dining area. And I don't want to say dining room, because I didn't want that restriction of,
sure,
it has to be a dining room with candlesticks and tablecloths. It was always, just dependent. And so I asked a few people to be in it, and then I auditioned some others. And my goodness, was I lucky. Just that I asked people and they said yes. And it was totally brilliant. I asked Helen Foster, and I was like, oh, so I've got this idea, and I was wondering, yes, I've not told you what it is. And she's like, no, I don't care. If it's your idea, I want to be in it. I'm like, what? Whoa! Yeah, okay, cool.
She's brilliant.
Oh my God, Helen's amazing. I love watching her in improvathons. It's a total joy. So I asked a few people. So I had Helen, Richard Soames, Jonah Fazell, Sarah Louise Young. I couldn't believe that all these people had said yes. And the people, these gems that I found in the audition process. So I met Jennifer before she'd got involved fully in the running of the nursery. It was when she was kind of new to town, really. And Oh my gosh, it was just so much fun. It was really fun. Like, how many people could... We did an exercise in rehearsal, like, how many people can you fit in a scene before it breaks?
Yeah.
So we did, we did a one-person scene, two-person. I just basically kept adding cast members. We always changed the setting slightly.
Yeah.
And we basically found out that 1 and 2 is great. And 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10... brilliant numbers.
Yeah.
3-person scenes, disasters.
That's interesting.
I don't know if it's because that inherent feeling of feeling like a gooseberry,
Yeah.
or that kind of weird 2 against 1, even though you're working together as very capable, competent, skilled improvisers.
Yeah.
You're not trying to catch each other out. For some reason, 3-person scenes just had a really weird atmosphere to them.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So, but 10, not a problem.
Wow.
Not a problem at all. So basically every show, we'd get the audience to ask... I'd ask them to think of somewhere where they'd had a memorable meal. So I wasn't asking them to create anything. I was just like, where have you had a memorable meal? So I had like a chocolate themed tea at the Hilton, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And then there was another one that was some like crazy restaurant that served a lot of goat. And it was somewhere, it was somewhere like Azerbaijan.
Yeah.
That was a godsend.
Yeah.
Geez, what a gift. So we had these wonderful suggestions, and so that would be the setting. And then basically I would get the audience to think of a number. And then I would get my cast to basically stand in a circle facing outwards. I would stand in the middle, and I'd just spin on the spot with my arm extended and get another audience member to shout out, "Stop." And then the person I was pointing at would be the waiter for the evening.
Ah.
And then I would count, say 6 people on. So we knew that 6 people would be in the kitchen.
Yes.
There'd be a waiter, and then the remainder would be in the restaurant. They would be diners.
Yeah.
So we had, it was lovely. It was really lovely to have the chance to have a kind of a style as well, to be given a little bit of budget. So, we had like a little doorway made. So just like a couple of blocks and some poles that we could stick together to show the delineation between kitchen and dining area. Table, we don't think we had tables, but we had chairs. And then everybody was in a palette of, white shirt and black trousers. So, then you could accessorize. So if you were in the kitchen, you had red and white gingham pieces of cloth that you could turn into an apron or a neckerchief or a like headscarf or something. And then the people in the dining room, everyone just brought in all of their fancy dress, which being improvisers is a lot. There's a lot of fancy dress. And then it was basically whichever side of the stage the waiter was in, that's where the action was taking place.
That's really nice.
So it was really cool. This was the brilliant thing about being in a theatre with flexible lighting, is that basically the lights would go... If the waiter was in the dining area, the lights would go down slightly on the kitchen area.
Wow.
So people would just be like gently chopping and cooking and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then when the waiter moved through into the kitchen, it went down on the
lovely.
dining room, and they'd be sort of just gently miming. And it was so fun. It was so fun, because it was all about relationships. That was it.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like the waiter had to lead the action. They could be, polishing a glass in the back of the room, and we'd still have like a conversation going on at a table or something. So they didn't have to lead it. It was just like they could just do it by random. And it was so fun as well, because I remember this bit where I think it was Helen was the waiter, and she came over to a table, and I think it was Rich and Sarah Louise. And it somehow ended up where Sarah Louise and Helen were going to swap, and you could just see the naughtiness on their faces. They were just like, we're gonna be so naughty, and I'm not the waiter, but I'm gonna go in the kitchen. Oh no! And it was so funny, because it was like, I don't care. I don't care at all what you do. Like, this wasn't like I just made this show up. It doesn't have rules. But they'd obviously already decided of like, oh no, overstepping a boundary. And it was just the glee, the naughty glee on their faces was so fun. Yeah, it was such a fun show. I really, really enjoyed it.
And you said it had a big effect on you as an improviser?
Yes, I think so, because I think it cemented my belief in the importance of relationships. It proved to me it proved to me how you can get a group of people who don't know one another, and if you treat them with kindness and respect as a director, you will get the best shows.
Yeah.
Having heard things about, and I don't mean improv directors, but I mean outside improv. Is there such a world? Directors aren't always kind.
Yeah.
And I think that's dumb.
Yeah.
I think that's really dumb. Like, I remember we did an exercise and I'd explained it and they were doing it, and it wasn't right. It wasn't what I wanted. And I paused and I was like, I'm so sorry, guys. Like, you're doing what I asked you to do, but it's not what I meant. What I meant was this. Yes. Can you do that? And they're like, yeah, sure. And then they did it. So it has had a profound effect on me in terms of making sure my communication is clear.
Yes.
And that's definitely fed into my teaching.
Yeah. Very
much so. And to be honest, this is probably more so with my solo work. Being clear and being simple. But also with 10 people on stage, you need to be clear and you need to be simple about what is going on. You can't have people running around all over the place. You've got to just slow down, listen. It's the fundamentals, really.
Yeah. Cool. And you've also been using improv to devise theatre recently.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, that was so cool. So last year, basically, Katie and I were like, we want to work together. Oh, let's do something immersive. So we came up with a bunch of ideas, and Robin Lind, whose office we're sitting in.
Yes, thank you, Robin, and thank you, the nursery, for allowing us to be here.
She was doing some shows in her caravan at Vault Festival. And so we submitted a couple of our ideas to her, and she liked them, and she wanted to do them. Katie, unfortunately, then was super busy, so she couldn't do it anymore, and I was like, I was reluctant to let the opportunity pass me by, so I asked. This was another instance of me calling up Helen and going, I've got an idea, and her just going, yes. I'm like, you don't know what it is yet? Don't care. I'm not joking. That's not paraphrasing. That's basically how the conversation went. Helen and Jonah, and two improviser buddies, and I was like, okay, we've got these two ideas. Help me make a show out of them. So one idea was It's Your Special Day, which is basically the idea that when a group of people come into a caravan, it's their 6th birthday party. We are their parents, and they will have a kid's birthday party. That was the idea. And the other one was the Society of Nice, which is when you come into the caravan, you are about to be inducted into the Society of Nice to become agents. NICE stands for Nifty Inclinations for Communal Empathy. We just had an absolute whale of a time, and we really did use our improv techniques to create our characters, to work out how we would structure things, like what was the rhythm needed, the kind of the ups and downs of things, and also knowing that the best kind of improv isn't just daft, it's also got heart to it. There's also a reason that you're doing it. So that was really nice in the It's Your Special Day one. It's just like, well, why are we having this birthday party? It's not just to pass the parcel and give out party bags. We really did give out party bags. It was it's amazing how quickly grown adults can become attached to a party bag.
Really?
Oh yeah, unbelievably. And I knew this because, best joke of the show, we would put a dollop of hummus into one person's party bag, and they nearly cried. It was so funny. So funny. We were safe in the lodge that we were going to give them another party bag when they left, we're not monsters.
I mean, I love hummus, but
it
has to be in the right context. Just in a party bag, that sounds like
covering your balloon and your flapjack.
You've taken something amazing and made it terrible.
Yeah. Keep you on your toes. So it was just like, well, it's not all about hummus in party bags, guys.
No.
It was basically a kind of, we're doing this because we have to give up the caravan. This is our last caravan, and so it was, it was a little bit sad. And then basically, Robin really liked it, and she said, "We'll come back and do Merge Festival." So we just did the Society of Nice for Merge Festival last year. And then one of the organisers liked that so much that she asked us back for Merge Festival this year.
Oh, wow.
And that was really fun because it was a new space. It wasn't in the caravan anymore. It was in a building not far from here, actually. So we had like a permanent room. So that was Society of Nice, the HQ edition. Helen couldn't make it anymore, but it was still me and Jonah, and then we recruited, just like agents, my boyfriend and Vicky Hawley, who is like a 1,000,000,001 different improv things that she does, but I knew her from Brighton. And just basically took elements from that show and created a whole new one. And it's just a real exercise in kind of going yes and to things of just like, well, at least let's give it a go. Like nothing got dismissed out of hand. Definitely used improv skills in showing people a good time, and also when things go wrong. Like it's all about audience interaction and audience immersion. So you never know what they're going to do, and you're wanting to show them a good time, and so adapting the show, like sometimes within the show, to make sure that they were having fun.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. You've also been involved in improvathons.
Oh yeah.
I don't really agree with improvathons.
On what basis?
I love improv, but I love sleep more.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I do in theory as well, but a couple of times a year, it's nice to remind yourself why you love sleep. I'm very excited because it's just been announced that the dates and the theme and the invitations have gone out for the Liverpool Improvathon. So I'm doing that at the end of next month. I couldn't be more excited. They're insane. What normal people decide to do this to themselves? Why am I doing it to myself? Yeah, it's so stupid, but it's completely brilliant.
Yeah.
It's I never see improv the way I see it in an improvathon, and I never do improv in the way I do it in an improvathon. I always find, particularly with the Liverpool one, every year I get bolder and bolder in my choices.
Yeah.
Not because you're just like, I don't know why. There's something about this sudden expansion of time that you're allowed on stage, where, normally, maximum you're looking at is probably luxury of 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a rarity these days on the joyfully oversubscribed London stages. So whenever I get a 45 minutes, I'm very grateful. To suddenly have, minimum, the Liverpool Improvathon is 33.5 hours long. But all of a sudden, for some reason in my head, I don't go, oh, we've got loads of time. Something in my head goes, well, come on, we better get on with it. I don't want to just dilly-dally around for 33.5 hours. I want to, get stuff done.
Yeah.
So I try not to save anything up.
Yeah.
I just, I'm just going to do it now. And so I just make quite big, bold choices. And that has really helped my improv outside of improvathons. It's shown me the value of making a big, bold choice. And they're crazy, and it's almost like a weird reunion. Like you get to improvise with people you've never met before. You get to improvise with people you've not seen for a year, or 2 years. People from other countries, people who, like the London Improvathon as well, where I never get to improvise on a day-to-day basis with the Showstoppers or people from Ostentatious, or just my friends, or like Maria. Like I was saying, I don't get the opportunity regularly to perform with people like Maria, and then there you're locked into this what feels like a world, and it's only a weekend, but it feels like life. Like after an improvathon, particularly the London 50. For the next few days, if I close my eyes, all I can see on the inside of my eyelids is the auditorium. It messes with you, good and proper.
But you would recommend it?
Oh my gosh, yes. And I would absolutely say, if you want to be in the audience for this, don't do the thing of just I'll just go for the end to see them all messed up, because it's so full of in-jokes and tying up storylines. Not in-jokes in a cliquey way, but themes that have been referred to throughout 50 years. Callbacks, that's the word. That's the term that people use. Oh, I'm such a good teacher. Yeah, there's just no point going to the last one.
Yeah.
But I've been an audience for the whole the audience for the whole 50 as well. And that was just crazy fun. You just end up weeping alongside them when characters die, or, oh God, it's crushing. And, somebody can just look at somebody strangely and it's the funniest thing on earth. Particularly, I don't do drugs, so I don't get high. But, I don't know how that feels. But improvathons to me, I like getting high.
Right.
That's my version of getting high.
Well, I recommend getting high using improv.
Yeah, it's cheaper. Kind of.
Well, let's not do the sums. Brilliant, that's fantastic. If someone was to step onto stage with you, what could they do to delight you?
I think. Oh my gosh. I'm trying to think of times I've been delighted and why that has happened. Okay, you're going to have to edit out this really long pause while I have a think.
There's some weird thumping going on in the background.
That's probably good timing then with my long pause.
Yes.
What could they do to delight me? I think probably come on with some, batshit crazy character. And imply that I'm not going to be opposite to that I am the same as them.
Oh, right, yeah.
So that I can be batshit crazy too.
Yeah.
I think that's a fun thing.
Cool. And big final question. What is your signature move? What do you do that go, classic Jinni, saved the day again, Jinni. Brought down the house, doing it.
Oh, wow.
Signature move.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. Well, it's funny, there are two things, I think, neither of which I'm particularly aware of. Right. They just kind of happen to me. And it's interesting, it's a thing I noticed in improvathons. I noticed it when I did the London 50, and I've noticed it a few times in the Liverpool ones. I don't know why, but it's quite often that the lights get brought down on one of my lines.
Oh, right, yeah.
So I think I cut through stuff quite well. Like if there's a kind of a lot of activity, a lot of kind of, floofing around a subject or something, I think I cut to the chase quite well.
That's interesting.
The other thing I think I do, which my friend Chris Mead told me I do, which again, not intentional, but when he said it, I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I do, is I do, and these are his words, I kind of go, laughy, funny, make you feel good, gut punch you to the stomach with emotion, make you feel absolutely horrendous, and then smooth it all over, laughy, funny. Wow. Those are roughly his words. So I think those are probably, I can't tell you which one of those is my signature move, right, because, like I said, they happen to me rather than me doing them on purpose. But I would say, cutting through fluff to get to the core of what's going on, and getting in a nice emotional gut punch in there.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Those sound like excellent signature moves. Thank you for being a guest on the Improv London podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I made this.
That's improv!